Hey, welcome. My name is David Gewertz, and welcome to my private site. Today, we're going to look at the various AI defense features. And to start with, what we're going to do is look at what they do and what they're protecting you from. And that takes us to the wonderful world of web scraping. With web scraping, what we have happening is bots come in and they scan your site for content. They grab that content and store it in their own databases. From there, they go ahead and use it to train their AIs. Those AIs then feed that information to users. The whole thing is done without your permission or your compensation. So, what my private site is able to do is to help you stop that with AI defense. So, AI defense really uses two fundamental approaches. In the core version of my private site, it supports something called voluntary defense, and I'll explain what that is in a second. And in the pro version or the commercial version, advanced AI defense, what it will do is add some active countermeasures. But let's take a look at what those mean. Voluntary compliance is the way that most systems use to defend against AI bots or robots that come in to take your information. And there are really three separate methods to do this. But first, I want to explain what voluntary compliance means. What voluntary compliance means is that the AI bot will look at your site, find some indicator on your site that says either there's no restriction or that there is a restriction. And if there is a restriction, they will abide by that restriction. But that's for well behaved bots that have decided to abide by that. Now, even companies that say they're well behaved don't always do that. But again, it's voluntary. They look for these indicators in a variety of different locations. And if they see the indicator, they go away. But if they don't see the indicator, they take your stuff and they add that to their training. So there's three different ways. The first one is a brand new service or brand new standard called Really Simple Licensing, or RSL. And the idea behind this is that it embeds licensing rules into robots.txt, RSS feeds, and HTTP headers. And again, what we're looking at is different places where the bots can look to find these indicators that you'd rather not have your stuff siphoned up and brought into their systems. The interesting part about RSL is that in certain circumstances, they offer a way for the AI service providers to compensate you for your content. Now, whether the AI service providers will do that or not is at this point anyone's guess. But we now have a mechanism by which they can do so, find you, and compensate you. And I'll show you more about that in the actual plugin itself. No AI tags are a similar tool. These are placed in metadata and HTTP headers, and these again signal web crawlers not to use the site content. And then robots.txt is the very classic way of telling robots like search engines and things like that what to access and what not to access. And again, these all depend on the compliance of the bot itself, of whether or not it's going to actually pay attention to your request. Then there's the active defense firewall, which is part of advanced AI defense, the add-on. And this is available as an upgrade extension to my private site. It actively blocks access to attempts. It returns a 403 forbidden error to any known bot attempting access. And what that means is whether or not they want to pay attention, we demand they pay attention by blocking their access. Now, there is one limitation, and that is we can only block bots with known user agent signatures. So if there are bots out there scanning your site and they spoof other agents or other signatures, we don't yet have a way to block that. But for any of the known roughly 20 user agents that are out there, bots that are the mainstream bots, we can put a very active block up so that they just can't get in there. Think of it as a fence or a firewall or a bouncer that just does not permit access, whether they want to or not. So those are the basic defense mechanisms. Let's start our demo and take a look at how it works. All right, let's get started with our demo. First off, the AI defense is located in a tab under site privacy. And as you'll see here, right now, this site is not set up to be private. AI defense will work whether or not you have site privacy on or off, which means you can use it with any site, even active commercial sites, and have it protect you against AI bots. So let's go to AI Defense, and this is the core product. So this is what comes when you install the open source product. And as you can see right now, AI Defense is disabled. But we can turn on, I showed you before, one or all three of these defenses. So let's take a look at what this means, the block using RSL. And to do that, I need to take you inside the sort of underbelly of how the web works. And to do that, I'm going to start by bringing up the robots.txt file. Now, this is a file that robots will look for to see if there's any indicator that tells them anything about the site. In this case, for example, it tells them that this is where the sitemap is, and it tells them that they're not allowed to access WP admin. And that's about it. If we hit refresh, that's all that's there. But if we go back to AI Defense and we turn on, let's start here. Let's turn on GPT bot access using robots.txt, and we turn that on. What'll happen is we're going to come back to robots.txt, and now if we refresh, you'll see that there's a user agent that's disallowed. So anytime there's a user agent with GPT bot, it will be blocked and will send back the message saying you're not welcome here. And if it's a compliant bot, it will listen and go, oh, I'm not welcome here. I'll go somewhere else. So that's the first capability and in this case, GPT bot is the OpenAI training bot. The next capability that we're going to look at is also with robots.txt, but it's partially with also another tool. So let's minimize this, and we're going to turn on RSL. And in this case, what we're going to do is look at the prohibit AI training option for RSL. Now, RSL is a new, hopefully standard that deals with a lot of options when it comes to providing licensing to the bots. And they're attempting to set up a standard where if more and more sites adopt this, then the bots may look at it and go, okay, I want to license this legitimately and use it. And we just saw Anthropic decided to pay a fairly large license fee for content. So we do know that some of the AI bot users are willing to license the content. But now that we've turned that on, if I hit refresh, we now have this line that says license, and it's at license XML. Now, it turns out that this is license.xml, and as you can see, there is now a license here. It says license, and it prohibits usage, and it prohibits training the AI. Now, what this means is it tells you that this is from rslstandard.org, which is the defining body for this RSL standard, and it provides a machine-readable piece of information that tells the bot what it can and cannot do in terms of licensing. And so the bot that comes in and reads this will look at it and go, okay, I'm not allowed to train here. I'll go somewhere else. So that's the defense that RSL has. And there's a lot more in the advanced version, but that's a good starting point. So remember that what it does is it basically provides a pointer. The robots.txt says this is where my license is, and then the license tells you what it does. And let's look at our third option, which is blocking AI access using both meta tags and headers. So we'll come in here and we'll turn this on, and now you can see we have three defenses deployed. And we're going to come back to our demo, but this time we're going to look at the source code. And this is going to be a little bit tough to see, but we want to look in this area here. And I'm going to refresh. And you can see that we've added this line. And this is another somewhat standard that some robots abide by, which says that you can't harvest either AI content or AI images. And that is now added into all of your pages in by turning that option on. That option is here, block AI access, but there's also headers that are added in, and I'll show you that here. Now, Postman's an interesting tool. It's a tool for looking at the header for a web page. Now, the header, basically when a browser pulls down a web page or a bot goes to a web page, it grabs it in pieces, and the header tells the bot a lot of, or the browser a lot about the page before it actually pulls the content. And so the header contains information like the type of server, content information, and so on. And at this point, as you can see, there's nothing about bots, but if we send a request, a GET request to the server, now what we'll see is that there's this xrobots tag that also says the same thing. So regardless of how the bot is attempting to access information, if the bot is looking for permission information or lack of permission information, what you're able to do is get that information in a variety of mechanisms. And all of that is built right into this interface here in AI Defense, which now comes with my private site when you download it from WordPress.org. Next up, let's take a look at the advanced tool. Okay, let's turn on the advanced plugin. So come up to plugins, and we'll turn on Advanced AI Defense. And then we'll come back down to Site Privacy, and this time AI Defense has a lot more available to it. It has a set of options for really simple licensing, and I'll go into that in a minute. We again have the no AI tags, which I showed you before. This is the identical thing that was in the core plugin. We have the ability to disallow 20 different user agents in robots.txt, and we also have the ability to block those user agents in a variety of ways. So let's start off with RSL, because that's intriguing as a new standard. And basically, remember I mentioned that there was the licensing for Prohibit AI training. Well, it turns out that RSL supports a bunch of different things, which is, one, you can prohibit training, or you can say you can train without restrictions. You could train as long as you report that and attribute it. You can train with a custom licensing agreement, and if you do that, you can give it a URL for that licensing agreement. You can train with a collective licensing agreement. And this is the one that I'm really intrigued of, because if you remember things in the music industry like BMI and ASCAP, which are music performance rights organizations. So if your music is performed, they collect monies for you. Well, what RSL wants to do is create an RSL collective that essentially is a performance rights organization for online content. And what happens is it will create this XML piece that fits inside your robots.txt that contains that information. Now, again, there's a couple of other options. So you can have a custom licensing agreement and give it a URL, which is your contact information. And let's just, for argument's sake, say it's HTTPS zatslabs.com. And as you can see, that information goes in here, and again, it's machine readable. But let's play around a little bit with this collective license. There's a few things that we can do with it. We're not active yet. We have to decide where to put it. So we're going to start by putting it into robots.txt. So we'll save this, and we'll go back to robots.txt, which we looked at before. There we go. We'll go back to robots.txt. And in this case, GPT-bot is not going to be on because we haven't turned it on yet. So we do have this license XML, but now when we come to license XML and refresh, we have this permission thing that says, yes, you can permit training if you give a royalty using this performance rights organization. And all this is all machine readable. So if the infrastructure is there, it's all automatic. Now, what the fees are and what they're paid for and all that is a separate issue. But this is all trainable, and you can go to rslcollective.org and you can sign up and register, and they will take care of all of that processing as the infrastructure builds out. So that's where that becomes kind of interesting. But you can also do a few other things. Like, for example, we can also decide that we would like this in our RSL feed. So let me show you my current RSL feed, which is a little difficult to read, but this is a lot of embedded information. Again, it's machine readable information. I'm sorry, RSS feed. But we can turn it on in our RSS feeds. And you notice that once I added the RSS feed here, we have the choice of putting it in the main feeds, category and tag feeds, author feeds, and search feeds. So you can embed this information in all of the feeds. And I'm just going to turn it on now. And we'll come back over here and we'll refresh. And you can see now we have this license information is put here. And so again, we have the ability to tell the feed reader, and we also have some information about where to go with this information. Here is the information embedded in the feed. So even if it's fed through an RSS reader, there is licensing information provided. And likewise, we can also add some RSL information into those response headers that we took a look at before when we were looking at Postman. So I'll add that in, and then we'll come back over to the response header. We'll go to demo.local. We'll do a send, and you can see that the license XML information is even embedded in the link header. So regardless of where the robot is looking, they can get at the license XML. And in this case, we've set it up so that we're looking for allow AI training with a license agreement through a performance rights or a licensing organization to be able to pull that information in. So that's a really powerful tool that allows you to work with this information and then potentially provide that out to the robots. Again, this is a voluntary compliance option. We talked about no AI tags, but I'll turn that back on just here, and we'll go back to the header for a moment, and I'll do another send. And this time you can see that the xrobots tag is also placed in the header. Let's move down to the robots.txt option. And as we looked at it before, robots.txt had just the license XML component to it. But what we can do is we can turn on any number of these robots.txt. And just to be completionist, I will turn them all on, save these choices. Now we have 27 defenses deployed. And as you can see, we have all of these user agents embedded in the robots.txt. So you don't have to do anything other than click the button, and you've got all of this stuff defended against through the voluntary defense. Now, if any of these bots don't want to pay attention and don't want to behave themselves, we have other countermeasures as well, and that's what we're going to do next. Now, these I have to show you through Postman because the user agent for the browser is different. We're not defending against users being able to get here via browser. We're defending against users getting here via a user agent from a bot. So because we're using a user agent that's not a browser's user agent, we're going to use Postman as a way to examine this. And you can see that a typical body of a page is just all of this HTML code and source code and all that. And what typically happens is that the bots will bring this stuff down and will scan through your source code and will extract the chewy nuggets of your source code and use it in their training. We want to prevent that. And so up until now, we've talked about a voluntary method where we are leaving all of this stuff available to the bots to take, and we're hoping that they pay attention and don't take it. We're going to change that up with this tool. So when we do this, we're seeing all the source code. But let's come back to Advanced AI Defense, and let's turn on forbid all front end requests. And let's do this for, say, for GPT bot. And we'll turn that on. And now we'll come back here and we'll tell it that we want the user agent GPT bot, and we'll do a send. Notice that the header comes back with a 403 forbidden, and this is the only text that's coming in the body of the HTML. They're just not getting anything. There's nothing for them to scrape. There's nothing for them to pull because it's just completely blocked. Now, we can also do the same thing with RSS feeds and with REST API requests. And so I'm going to block the REST API request. Now, this is the actual API, the programmatic API that other systems can grab from your information. And we're blocking this at all of these different levels. So now I'm going to come over here. This is the typical REST API endpoint for WordPress. And I'm going to do another send. And as you can see, I'm getting the information back, right? You've got a 200, which is okay, and you're getting the API information. And then I turn on the user agent and hit send. You can see that again, we're getting a 403 forbidden. And as you can see, the only thing coming back through the feed is a forbidden and a status of 403. So this is active countermeasures. And as you can see, we've got 3 countermeasures deployed, but we can come down here and we can turn on all of these. And so we can create a situation where we have all of the countermeasures. Let's see, did I turn everything on? Turn on RSS as well. So you can have a situation where you've got 27 voluntary defenses and another 26 active countermeasures deployed to block bots from gaining access to your information. So whether they're complying voluntarily or you just use a bouncer at the door and keep them from gaining access, they are blocked and your content is protected from being stolen and reused and given away for free to AI users everywhere. And in fact, one of the interesting challenges, of course, is that rather than people going to sites, they're reading it on the AI at the beginning of all these search engines or in ChatGPT, and they're not going to your site. So this is a way of preventing the AI from having access to your information in a wide range of methods. And it's all a bunch of very quick button presses. You can have this thing deployed in 20 minutes. And you can have it up and running and you can have your site fully protected. Okay, so how cool was that? So let's go over briefly the difference in features between the built-in AI Defense Core and the Advanced AI Defense add-on. We talked about RSL, and in the core, we prohibit bot training. That's it. We just prohibit the ability for bots to train, again, voluntarily. In the Advanced AI Defense add-on, we add multiple license options, including monetization options, and you're able to block multiple mechanisms, including robots.txt, the RSS feeds, and HTTP headers are all used for blocking. No AI tags are the same in either version. They are embedded in the metadata and HTTP headers, and if the bots listen to that, then they're available for both. In robots.txt, we will allow the OpenAI GPT bot, which is OpenAI's training bot, and it's disallowed in the core version of my private site, whereas in the Advanced AI Defense add-on, there's 20 AI bots you can choose from, and you can turn them all on and block all of them. And then in the firewall is just not available in the basic core version. But in the Advanced AI Defense, it adds server-level countermeasures with anti-AI bots actively defending against 20 bots, 20 known AI systems and their associated bots. So that is my private site. If you go to the Zats Lab site and you go to the Advanced AI Defense page, you'll not only find where you can get the add-on, but there's also a full white paper for you to download if you want, or for you to read if you want. That provides a great deal of additional information if you want to dive into this more deeply. My name is David Gewirtz for my private site and Zats Labs. Thank you very much and have yourself a great day.